This is Kendra.
And this is Brianna. Welcome to Camp Comparisons,
where she's in one camp and I'm in the other. Okay, so we're back. Our last episode, we covered the end of season 1, episode 1 of the Percy Jackson TV series. So we covered the time they were in the cabin at Montauk, and then Grover arriving, and the drive to camp, the Minotaur fight.
Yep.
And at the very end, he sees Chiron or Mr. Brunner as a horse.
Yeah.
And is welcomed to camp. And that's where we ended.
Yep. Okay, good. So we're getting into episode 2, and there will be spoilers probably for the entire season and the entire first book. So just keep that in mind.
All right. So we start with Percy waking up almost just momentarily at this point. So the first scene of this episode is basically Percy waking up and finding himself at camp.
Right, I already have thoughts. We're 1 second in and I was like, there's thunder?
There is thunder.
Because, well, we do hear thunder at camp in the books. Usually when Dionysus is trying to pull something and Zeus, has thunder that rumbles in the distance. Mm-hmm. However, there's not supposed to be bad weather at camp. Ever. Do you remember in the books, they have, a weather spell over... Not a spell, I know it's not Harry Potter, but they have some weather control over camp.
Yeah.
And it only rains when they want it to, and only snows when they want it to.
This is true, but you might be forgetting that is the case, but then in this first, when he arrives... the bad weather does come to camp, and he's like, oh my gosh, I brought this to camp. It actually starts raining. And all the satyrs are out there in the field what? Do you not remember that?
I do kind of remember that. I remember, while he's getting his tour in the book, there's, dark clouds coming, and the campers are kind of nervously looking up. And then he ends up asking, what happens when it rains? Because he looks at the outdoor pavilion where they eat, and he's like, well, where do you guys eat when it rains? And they're like, it never rains here. But then, basically, a storm was coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit later that the storm comes, but it is kind of in this beginning part.
Yeah, okay, you're right.
So, yeah.
Well, there you go. But I was like, that's a lot of thunder right there at the beginning, and I felt like there was lightning, too.
It's funny because remember I was complaining how the last one they didn't have enough bad weather when it was supposed to be bad weather all the time. So then they start out with bad weather in the beginning of this episode. I was like, okay, fine. Yeah. But yeah, you do get that glimpse of Annabeth for the first time. This is our first glimpse of Annabeth. Mm-hmm. And she says the famous line, "You drool when you sleep," in the TV series. Now that's her first line to him when he meets her on the porch. Not her line to him when he wakes up from the...
Because he says... Well, no. She says, "Are you the one?" Or something like that, which is technically her first line to him. At the end of episode 1, she says, "He's the one." And then Chiron says, "Hush."
Actually, no. So let me correct you on this. So yes, you're right. She says, is he the one? She's not really talking to Percy. Okay. But in the book, and again, we're starting with chapter 5 on this episode. So in chapter 5, in the beginning... he wakes up a couple times, remembers being fed something that tasted like buttered popcorn, which is supposed to be ambrosia. Or I forget which one is which
ambrosia.
One. Yeah. And then he said there's a girl with curly blonde hair, the one he saw previously.
Does he say it's curled like a princess? I always thought that was
cute. Done in the first explanation of her, yeah. Yeah. And she asks, what will happen at summer solstice? And he's like, what? She's like, what's going on? What was stolen? We've only got a few weeks. And then he's like, what? I'm sorry, I don't know. Yeah. And then someone knocks on the door and she quickly fills my mouth with pudding. And the next time I woke up, the girl was gone. So he only just has these glimpses. He wakes up a little bit and has just that short conversation with her, but he's out of it.
But it's still just about the quest or whatever.
Yeah.
She's trying to get information out of him, but he has no idea what's going on.
So that's the book. So in the book, you have him waking up, seeing Annabeth, him waking up, seeing who you don't actually know yet who this is, but he sees a surfer dude with eyes all over him. That's Argus. Yeah. And we do get introduced to him later in this book. Doesn't happen, though, in the beginning. You don't actually meet him in the beginning. But we do not get him at all in the whole season. And I did learn about why apparently it was going to take up way too much of their CGI budget to put a bunch of eyeballs on a person.
For just a gag, like just like
Yeah.
something that never really comes to anything. It's just he's just a character just to show the Greekness of everything that's going on. Just another.
Yeah, and it is kind of odd and out of place in a way because everybody else. Well, like I was gonna say, the normal humans are not. We got satyrs, we got centaur. Okay, fine, but yeah, he does drive them. Nymphs. That's right. There are several creatures there.
Yeah,
he does drive them to, I think, to like the bus stop or something like that for their quest. But okay, so we don't get that.
He's not like a crazy important character, but we
I
don't
didn't
love
consider
him.
that a problem.
No, and also Mike Schubert called it. He like when he was just reading this book, he was like, they probably didn't do an Argus in the movies even before the TV shows came out because. Yeah, it like sounds funny the way that Percy describes it, but I think on screen it would also be slightly horrifying.
I think it'd be slightly horrifying.
Like,
I mean, he opens his mouth. Doesn't he have like an eye on his tongue?
No, he never talks.
Oh, he never talks.
The rumor about why he never talks is because he has an eyeball on his tongue,
and he doesn't.
But the funny thing is, he's the head of security because he's always
he can
watching
see everything everywhere. Yeah, so it is kind of a little bit of a funny thing, an odd thing, and it wasn't really needed. I have no problem that was
me neither. Plus, like I said, less funny, more horrifying, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Also, when he rolls his eyes, that like in the book,
and all of the
rolls his eyes, it looks like his body like does the wave.
That would have been hilarious to see, but again, it was fine. It was totally fine.
A joke.
Yeah. So, but in the TV show, he wakes up in what he calls the how do you say it? Infirmary? Infirmary. And you actually see like there's like a little humidifier next to him. This like funny little humidifier right next to him on the bed. And when it shows where the Minotaur horn is, there's other instruments there. So you can tell it's kind of like a sick bay area, you know?
Yeah, much better than the silly way the movies did the infirmary.
I don't remember at all.
Oh my gosh.
I don't remember the movies.
It was out of... I know. He told me that.
We'll have to do that.
Just probably for the best. You don't remember them. They were terrible. But I recently, when Mike did the rewatch when Mike watched it for the first time, the movie, I rewatched it.
You watched it again? Mm-hmm. Okay.
But the infirmary is like out of like a old-timey movie. Like they're wheeling around like wooden carts and they have like nurses that like are dressed all like they're from olden days. It's so weird.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
I want to just mention something to our listeners because you bring up Mike like everyone in the world knows who Mike is.
Well, we introduced exactly who he was in episode 1.
Yeah, but just like so barely that... But when Brianna talks about Mike Schubert, he is another podcaster and he did Potterless, which is like was a Harry Potter podcast, and then he moved into The Newest Olympian, which is a Percy Jackson podcast. So that's who he is.
He's a Percy Jackson podcaster.
That's who he is.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So the book does not show him waking up in a room at all. In fact, he wakes up laying in like a what's it called? Like one of those lounge chairs or something on a porch.
Oh, yeah, they must have moved him outside to get him, like, some sun.
Some air. Yeah, so he wakes up outside, and there's, like, a nice drink next to him, and he looks around, and then Grover's there. Uh-huh. So that's how he wakes up in the book. In the TV show, he wakes up in this room, and Grover's there also. It does start out kind of the same in that case, because Grover's, like... does he say anything... I think that Percy says something like, did you see what happened? And Grover's like, I'm sorry. And Percy doesn't want to talk about it. And Grover wants to talk about it. And he's like, I don't want to talk about it, right?
Yes.
And then he gets out of bed.
Uh-huh.
And this is where he starts this weird thing that is not in the book. And I do not understand why it is the case. He's going to go find his dad. Oh. Okay, first of all, I didn't realize until I reread these chapters again that he doesn't even realize that he's a demigod totally. Like, he doesn't get the fact that he has a parent who's a god.
Until Annabeth explains it to him.
Until Annabeth explains. Yeah. She says something like, your parent. He's like, my mom is Sally Jackson. She's like, no, your dad. And he's like, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
She's like, no, Percy, he's not. You are a demigod, which means
if
he
your mom's
is
not
a
the
god.
Then your dad's a god.
So he has that cognition, like, later on. But... in here, he like literally wakes up like, I'm gonna go find my dad, and he's like on this quest to find his dad.
But it does make more sense because Sally explained a lot more in the cabin scene in episode 1 than Sally ever explained in the books.
Okay, so he knows a lot more.
She literally told him, your dad is a god.
Yes, and I actually found the scene in here that corresponds to that conversation which we'll get to when we get to it on the book. But you're right. But that's so it is an added new thing then, because then he goes, I'm going to go find my dad. He goes and he finds Mr. D, and they have the whole I am your dad thing, which we're going to get to, right? But it's like a continuing thing about like, my dad didn't show up. Where's my dad? And I don't know where they're going with it, because they could have had...
I just think it's one of those things that Rick Riordan thought
he should do
later. Well, I'm sorry, but if your mom just died, you're out one parent, I feel like it would be the natural thing to be like, cool, where's my other one?
Where's my dad?
No, especially, like I said, like he thought his dad was already dead because his mom told him in the book he was lost at sea, which just means dead most of the time.
Yeah.
However, in this case, it was more like a pun or something. Like, it was more like a joke or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it just... He knows his dad's a god and that he's not dead.
And he just thinks his dad's at this camp. I just think this makes him look so dumb. I'm just going to go find my dad. Like, your dad is a god, Percy.
Well, there's another god sitting right there.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that when he gets out of bed and goes...
Right, but he knows this is a camp meant for this stuff. I mean, I don't think it's that strange.
Okay,
I just don't.
That's fine.
And I think it was one of those things where, like, when you look at it logically from Percy's point of view, now that he knows his dad is alive and a god, and he's not getting it explained by Annabeth once he's gone around the camp and sees, okay, obviously there's not a bunch of gods here. The gods don't live here. He already knows that when Annabeth tells him,
in the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your dad's a god. He's like, okay. And he already learned that they all live on Mount Olympus, which is the Eiffel Tower.
There's a lot more explanation, a lot of talking in the book about what's happening.
Yes. So I don't know. True, I just feel like it makes sense.
Ends up being this whole, almost like a runner. I don't know if that's the right word, a little bit. And we miss out on other things. Okay, fine. It does give us a cute, funny scene. It really does with Mr. D. But see, so in the book, he wakes up, Grover has him drink his... Well, hold on. Which one is it? Is it drinking nectar and eating ambrosia? Okay, so he's drinking nectar, and it tastes like chocolate chip, his mom's blue chocolate chip cookies.
Right.
And that's also something we don't get any explanation in the whole season about ambrosia and nectar. Yet we do learn about it. Yeah, so no one who... If you haven't read the books, you don't actually know that we have this stuff that's only... You can't give it to humans. It will, like, literally burn them up from the inside. It's only for demigods.
Well, it's made for gods, but demigods can have it.
So they can't have too much.
Portions. Otherwise, they will also combust.
And it's supposed to heal them.
Yes.
So he was being fed ambrosia.
No.
Hold on, no, I'm doing it wrong.
No, you did it right.
Is the pudding was ambrosia?
Yeah.
And then he was drinking, when he wakes up, they give him a thing of nectar. And it tastes different for everybody. It tastes like whatever is like your comfort food is.
That's what we get the idea of.
Yeah. That's kind of what they says. I mean, he says like buttered popcorn for his ambrosia, but his nectar, he says, tastes like his mom's cookies.
Yeah. I think that it is explained that it tastes differently for everyone, but...
Well, Grover asks, what does it taste like to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we don't get that explanation at all. I wonder if it's got to come up later because they feed each other ambrosia and nectar in other books.
Yeah.
So he walks out of the room saying, I'm going to go see my father, right? I'm going to go find him.
Yeah.
And that gets us into this porch, this like outside porch
with stained glass.
With stained glass,
so
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, different than what I was expecting, but I actually like it. It's really cool.
Beautiful.
And then there's Mr. D. He's in his Hawaiian shirt, snoozing with his sunglasses. What do you think about the casting of Mr. D?
It's hard. It's kind of like how I feel with Gabe a bit, because, first of all, I love that actor.
Jason Mantzoukas or something
like
that.
I really, really love him, and I love everything I've ever seen him in. So I was, like, happy to see him. But then, did I think he portrayed a perfect Dionysus? Or Dionysus? I was Dionysus, right?
Sure, either one works for me.
I always said Dionysus, but I'm pretty sure it's wrong. Anyways, do I think he portrayed a perfect Dionysus? No, but he was much more Dionysus than Hephaestus was Hephaestus. And I love that actor, too. And
yeah.
That was not Hephaestus, so...
No.
So, I don't know.
That. But, yeah, I kind of feel the same way.
As the season goes on, and when we see him in the very last episode, I started thinking he was more Dionysus. It's kind of like how I felt with Annabeth, too. Like, right away, I wasn't sure. I didn't get all of the vibes. I didn't get all the chemistry right away, but I knew that, okay, we were, like, 2 or 3 episodes in, like, give it a minute. Obviously, these characters have to build that rapport. And then they did, and then I was like, yeah, that's Annabeth, and I was totally on board. So,
agreed, yeah.
That's kind of how it was with him, too. But I just love him so much.
Yeah.
He's such a good actor.
Well, this first scene that they have a conversation, first of all, the whole getting his name wrong, that doesn't happen in the book until later. It doesn't happen until he announces him at the very first dinner where he's eating. He says, I have to announce this new camper, blah, 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 Peter Johnson. And then Mr. Bruner's like, Percy Jackson. Whatever, Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
So that's when you get that. This happens right away, but I actually really loved the scene. I loved it so much. I love how he's like, Peter Johnson's here. And then he's like, it's Percy Jackson, but okay.
Yeah, and then a little bit later when, like, he's like, yeah, we've been introduced. Or something like that. And Percy's like, have we though?
Yeah, he goes, Grover's like, this is Percy Jackson. And I think Mr. D's like, yeah, I heard you the first time. And then Percy's like, yeah, but did you?
Did you really?
Did you really? It was
like
it was perfect because we got that Percy sass that we want to see.
Yeah.
And I think this was like maybe the first time that we got it too, which was nice because I was like, a little enough of it, I think.
Yeah.
And then you got Mr. D being like a douchebag, which is what he is.
Yeah.
He is a grumpy god that's stuck.
He's being punished.
Having to take care of these brats that he doesn't like or care about at all whatsoever. And he is generally not good-mannered at all. In fact, pretty much never good-mannered.
Nope.
He's serious about maybe 1% of the time. And those times are actually very interesting conversations throughout the whole 5 books,
Yeah.
But
I like the little bit of growth we get between him and Percy slowly. I really do enjoy it. But there's definitely times that, like, Percy gets very angry at him. I kind of forgot about this until I was really combing through the, like, episodes and really thinking about the differences between the books and whatever. Percy in the book, he really does have a short temper and quite a little anger issue. Like, the gods constantly piss him off.
Yeah.
And, like, he gets... I mean, you kind of see it with Zeus at the very end of the season. On the screen, you see his, like, anger. But even with Ares, I didn't really feel that anger.
In the TV show?
Yeah.
No, not...
It should have been way more.
He was so pissed in the books. But again, we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah, he seems more, like, offended by Ares than, like, angry.
Yeah.
But Percy has a short fuse. He gets angry at Dionysus constantly. Dionysus. And Dionysus is constantly being like, I'm about to turn you into a dolphin. Or make you lose your mind. They're just, They have a whole
relationship, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so in the part of the book, he shows up and Mr. D is playing cards with Mr. Bruner.
Uh-huh.
And Annabeth is there leaning against the railing. And Mr. Bruner, or Chiron, whatever, I think it eventually becomes Chiron, but in the beginning they're still calling him Mr. Bruner. Yeah. He says, Annabeth, why don't you go make sure his cabin's ready? He'll be in cabin 11. And she looks at Percy, and he's like thinking, she's about to say, hey, cool, well done. And she says, you drool when you sleep. And then she leaves. So that's in the book. That's when you get that line.
Right,
so.
Which brings me to a point that I think I made later in my notes, but we might as well bring up now because this is exactly what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
In the book, we get the impression that Percy, I mean, not even the impression. Percy straight up says that, like, he thinks she's really pretty, like a princess, and that he kind of already has, like, a little crush on her right away. Like, even the fact that he's like, oh, she's probably going to say something, like, cool to me, and then she says that, like, it's like right away. And now clearly she doesn't feel the same way at all. She's more interested in him because of the potential quest, and then she hates him because she finds out he's the son of Poseidon and wants nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
Because she's the daughter of Athena. But, like, right away we get the idea, like, oh, this is Percy's love interest.
Do you really? Do you
I
feel
did.
that way?
Like, he wants her to be impressed by him, and he describes her as attractive in many different adjectives, like, every time he sees her. Like, her pretty hair and her pretty face. And, like,
that's true, he does.
He's constantly thinking about her in, like, how pretty she is.
Yeah.
So, but in the books, in the series, the TV series, like, the first real into his brain, what does he think about Annabeth we get, is when he was like, can you please ask her to leave me alone?
Yeah.
Like, that's what he thinks of her. He's just like, I'm creeped out by her.
We talked about it. It took a while before we felt the connection between them that we felt from the books much faster.
Right. And I think this is what I'm noticing. Like, I think this is why, because we are in Percy's head in the books, and we get it right away. Okay, he thinks she's pretty. He wants to impress her.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a YA book. We know where this is going, right?
Yeah.
This is the love interest. But in the TV show, they just do a slower build to it. And you kind of learn why later. You learn that her personality kind of has to change, as weird as that sounds, for her to be a better match with Percy. Yeah. He has to teach her a different way of thinking and kind of soften her up a bit. And then you're like, oh, now this makes sense. But right away, we don't understand that. We're just like, why aren't they connecting? Because this is weird.
Especially when you're a book fan, because you're like, oh my gosh, Percybeth, which is the ship name. You know, why is this not happening? What's going on? Why, you know, so there was a lot of uproar in the first couple episodes where people being like, I don't feel it. I'm not feeling it between them. And they were really worried about that because it's like so important to the fan base. Yeah. But it did end up working out. So
and in the book, she still doesn't like him at all for a while. But we know that he kind of likes him. Yeah. And then soon she like hates him because of Poseidon.
I don't know if I would go that far.
She gets real standoffish and pissy with him.
Yeah.
So
she does. She definitely gets pissy with him.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this difference in the book where he shows up and talks to Mr. D by himself. So he doesn't have Mr. Brunner there, and Annabeth does not show up. We get a lot more Annabeth in the book in the beginning, so we'll get to that. But we have the whole scene where he's like Peter Johnson and whatever. And then Percy says in the TV series, like, I want to go find my dad. And this is where you get this Mr. D saying, hi, son. Yeah. I'm your dad. And he wants to send him to go to that galley down there and get me this 1985, I don't know, wine. And he's like, what?
And then we can talk about whatever we want.
You, me,
whatever.
And Percy's like, that is all you're going to say, right?
Yeah.
So that was a kind of a little funny, I guess it was showing us the two things. It's showing us Mr. D doesn't give a crap about your feelings because he's going to pretend he's your dad just to get some wine. And it gives us that opening of Mr. Brunner explaining, which they don't actually, but it does explain that Zeus won't let him have wine and that he's trying to basically use him to get the wine.
And then we
doesn't explain why, though.
No, it doesn't explain why. It never does in this season. But we also get that anecdote of demigods can do for gods what they're not allowed to do for themselves. So if a god is banned from something, a demigod can do it. They get to, cross boundaries that gods are not allowed to. They have restrictions for the, ancient laws, but demigods are only restricted by their own bravery. Now that's from the book, but...
And that one line, if you catch it, then will help you understand
why they think Percy stole the bolt or a demigod stole the bolt. Yeah,
because Poseidon can't steal the bolt from Zeus, but a demigod could.
And his also, own son would be the perfect pawn. But
there's also things like when they go to get Ares' shield, like that's something only that demigod, he couldn't do that. So there are things like that throughout the series, and that one line was their way of kind of introducing why that works the way it is. I think it's explained in a lot more detail in the book, but
well, the whole talk about Olympus and the gods and how they exist here and how they move with the power of the West and that whole conversation is just
not done.
Skip past. You kind of get it sprinkled throughout the show instead. Like you do at the end learn that they live at the top of the Empire State Building and stuff. But I guess they decided that another sit down talk about the stuff we're going to need for the plot might be wasted. Like it just might take too long. We already kind of had that with Sally. Now let's get to the action.
Yeah, because literally all of chapter 5 is them basically explaining to Percy what's going on in different ways. Like it's first happening at the table, and then Mr. Brunner takes him around, and there's some more talk, and then he turns him over to Annabeth, who then does some more. Annabeth's the one who does the whole we went to Mount Olympus. It's like, well, how did you do that? She's like, we took a taxi to wherever. Yeah. We went to the 600th floor of the Empire State Building. She's like, do you live in New York or what? And he's like, yeah, but I
How was I supposed to know
that Mount Olympus was there? It was such a funny thing. So yeah, you get all of that in this chapter, and we don't. We just get, like you said, we get it sprinkled a little bit here and there throughout the season. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because if you just had a lot of sitting and talking, you lose too many people in the very beginning.
Yes.
It's too slow.
I mean, that happens in books too. Like, a lot of people find it hard to start a new series, or especially into a fantasy world, like Jenna Fisher, because it's so much world building. Mm-hmm. And you have to learn all the laws of the new world and how it works, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so people get lost in the first books of a lot of series, yeah.
Yeah, but Rick does an amazing job of making it interesting.
Oh, totally.
It's not boring at all. Yeah.
It's not boring at all. Like, I was just rereading this again, and I was just like, oh my gosh, he tells you so much, and it's so fun.
Yeah, because we get Percy's reaction to it, and it's like 3 different characters that tells him it. So you are building relationships at the same time. They're moving from spot to spot. Like,
you get to see some of the camp while you're at it. Like, it's not all, So he does a good job in the book.
But yeah, we get Chiron talking to Percy as they're walking through camp still in the TV show, but they didn't, I think
it's not
it was the right choice to not do a lot of sitting and talking about everything.
Yeah. I wanted to read to you because remember, we have that line in the TV series we talked about last episode where he's like, my dad, or you married, or you met, God, like as in Jesus.
Right.
Well, the thing that compares to that in the books is actually here, where they're on the porch talking, and he says, wait, you're telling me there's such a thing as God? And Chiron says, God, capital G, God, that's a different matter altogether. We shan't deal with the metaphysical. And then he's like, metaphysical, but you were just talking about. And then Chiron says, gods, plural, as in great beings that control the forces of nature and human endeavors, the immortal gods of Olympus. That's a smaller matter. And he's like, what? So anyway, so that's the capital G God reference that's in the book. I just thought I'd mention that. And then going back to where we were in the TV series, he mentions he's about to like go maybe get the wine, and then Mr. Brunner comes clop, 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 and he like, this is the first time he really sees him, and it's like, oh wow, you're a horse,
Yeah.
Actually, I think he says that in the book, not in the TV series. Okay, fine. But this is when
he does mention it in the TV series too.
Oh, okay.
A little bit. He's like, my best friend is. He's naming like the things that are going wrong, and apparently that's my dad. It's right then in the
oh, that's scene. Right. And you're a horse.
Yeah. And
he said that's my dad, and that's when Mr. D's like, no, sorry. Mr. Bruner's like, no, and this is actually, I still think one of the greatest like few lines. He's like, no. Mr. D is not your dad.
He's like, I could be.
He's like, I could be, and he's like, what? But are you? And he's like, you ruin everything.
Yeah, that shows their relationship really well.
Because Mr. Brunner or Chiron is the one who keeps Mr. D in line. And that's what you get from that, is like, Mr. D's wild, doesn't really want to follow the rules, doesn't really want to do it all right. And Mr. Brunner or Chiron, should I just call him Chiron at this point? It's Chiron, right? Because Charon is the guy who takes people
across the river
Styx when they're dead. Okay.
Yeah.
So Chiron, is obviously putting Mr. D's, like getting him set straight,
Yeah.
It's funny. But I wanted to say, so we only hear something about like, Mr. Zeus doesn't let Mr. D have alcohol, basically. It's very short, but in the book, he actually says, Mr. D offended his father a while back, took a fancy to a wood nymph who had been declared off limits.
Probably because Zeus wanted her.
And then Mr. D says, yes, father loves to punish me. The first time, prohibition. Ghastly. Absolute horrid 10 years. The second time, well, she was really pretty, and I couldn't stay away. The second time he sent me here. Half-Blood Hill, summer camp for brats like you. Be a better influence, he told me. Work with youths rather than tearing them down. Ha! Absolutely unfair. Anyway, so that's from the book.
Isn't it 100 years he has to be at camp?
And again, I think they tell it more later, but that's all they say in this part.
I thought it was a century, or maybe it was 1,000 years. I just remember that, like, for Mr. D, it was like a medium-long punishment, but Percy is like, oh my god.
That's a long time. He's going to be here forever.
He's going to be here
forever. Yeah. Anyway, so you get that. You don't get that in the book. You don't get the explanation, but I just thought it'd be fun to read because I think it's funny.
Yeah.
Poor Mr. D, he's such a brat.
Yeah, I remember when this scene happened, the very first time we were watching it, the second Mr. D was like, I'm your father, all of us went, what?
Yeah. Because we so did not expect that at all.
Yeah, we're like, just like, we knew that couldn't obviously be what was happening, but for like a second I was like, what have they done?
Have they changed who his father is? Like, obviously not. There's no way on earth you could change that, but that was funny. It definitely shocked us. There was definitely a moment
where we were like, what? And I think, one, that's great, like, that we could be surprised. You know, I like that there's things that we didn't know was going to happen, although in the moment I was like, excuse me. And then, two, after, you know, calming down, I realized that this scene is a great way to put, you know, a few weeks at camp that Percy has, and how we get to learn about how much of a jerk Mr. D is, and whatever, we get that extended, but this is like, let's really try to get the most jerkness out of a short period, and the most, like, okay, Chiron's the one who is the person in charge that actually cares and is really there for the people and trying to keep Mr. D in line. And we just get that, like, really condensed.
That's true. And they have to condense it.
Yeah. It was whoever wrote that was probably very proud of themselves. They did a great job condensing all of those feelings into one scene. That was hilarious.
They definitely did. One thing we don't get, though, is in the book, when they're talking about that Mr. D's a god or whatever, you get this, like, Percy looks in his eyes and he sees the power, and he feels that power of making people crazy with the, because that's what the wine god can do, you know. And I think it's later on, where, not in this scene, where he says something like, if you're here when I come back, I'm gonna turn you into a dolphin, you know. But you actually come to fear him just a little bit. That doesn't happen in the TV series. No. That Mr. D does not seem fearful. He just seems kind of annoying, which is okay. It's fine, because it's such a small point in the books. But Mr. D comes up a lot in the, I think it's in both series. He comes up and helps. I think in the second series too. He is a character that is necessary, and you do have to get that he is powerful, because he pulls off some powerful things.
If they open Titan's Curse the same way they open it in the book, not open it, but just on the cover of Titan's Curse, you see the Pegasus and Percy and some grapevines. That scene that's, like, in the third book, where you see Mr. D's powers a bit more, at that point I feel like you'll get that, like,
and hopefully they do. Hopefully they show us that, because right now we're just getting the annoyed camp director who doesn't want to do his job, which is a big part of Mr. D, but we don't get that little bit feeling of, like, power that's in there. We don't get that in the TV series. I mean,
his powers definitely come up by the end of, they come up multiple times. In just
the books.
Yes, but I'm saying, like, in quintessential, is that the word? In very important parts of the first 5 books, his powers come up multiple times. So we'll get them eventually. And maybe at that point, Percy can, show on his face that maybe he's a little bit in awe or scared.
Like he sees the real god. There. Okay, we'll see for sure.
But I think that they're trying to keep, even with Gabe and stuff, I know that you think that they took out a lot of the humor, but I think they're trying to put it in different ways that they think that they can't do it the same ways that it's done in the book. So they're making some of the characters a bit more funny instead.
Definitely, as I've been rereading these chapters, I can see that this humor that's in there is not something that you can do very easily in, like, show and tell, as opposed to reading it, because it's a lot in his head.
It's his reaction to things. And it's how he processes it. It's how he thinks about it.
Again, though, like we've said, and I don't want to keep beating this point, but Walker Scobell is a very funny guy. Very naturally very funny guy. And he could have been used more. We could have put more humor in, because he can do the best faces and the eye rolls and the whatever. We could have put more humor in it. They didn't. That's a choice they made.
He's more, like I said last episode, he's a bit more sad. And I wonder when his mom is no longer dead in season 2.
Maybe that'll come out.
Episode 2, season 2, book 2 situation. We'll get a little bit of a less sad Percy and a bit more confident in his powers and stuff, and that might make him more lighthearted. Maybe.
We'll see what they do. I mean, they're going to now have all this feedback. We'll see what season 2 brings us. But...
Yeah, we're hoping for at least longer episodes.
Oh my gosh, please.
Or more episodes, whichever one. Both.
Yeah.
Longer and more. That would be great.
Yeah. So this scene ends with like Mr. Brenner's like, I'll take you around, or no, he says like, come talk to me. He says Grover stays here. And it ends with Grover like watching, and he says, this doesn't feel right. And then Mr. D says, success? You got him to camp alive. Don't overthink it. And he's like, yeah, but, and then Mr. D like raises his eyebrows. He's like, okay. And he doesn't talk. So there's like, you can see that
I guess have some power.
Grover. Oh yeah. But I was gonna say, it's just showing that Grover is like not particularly happy with how things are going. And I guess that's going to lead us to then the scene where he like
goes to the council.
Goes to the council to find out about the mom, yeah?
Yeah, because I think that's what he's sad about.
Yeah. And of course they don't show that in the book because as is explained, the book is all Percy's viewpoint. So he doesn't know what's happening when he's not there.
Yep.
And this is a way for them to show what's going on in Grover's mind. So that ends that scene.
Right. So now they go and tour the camp.
Yeah.
They meaning Chiron and Percy.
Yeah. And so that's kind of cool. So they show like they show the camp, and you see like there's this big lake, but then they actually showed a smaller lake.
Right? Because when Percy looks out on the porch, he sees like a big lake with canoes. But then when they're walking away from the big house, you can see all the way in the corner the big house. And then you see the stables, which I guess are the stables because there's a little black Pegasus outside of it. And it's just crazy that there's another black Pegasus. Because Blackjack was supposed to be like the only black Pegasus. They're all different colored horses, but it's fine. So there's the stables, and then you come a little bit further, there's some statues and stuff, and then there's another lake with more canoes.
I'm going to guess that lake is the one, if we're going to look into the lake and see the Nereids, however you say those, that'll be that lake. And that the other big lake, so there's 2 lakes
Maybe
in this
it was
thing.
the ocean, because they're supposed to be right by the ocean. They are supposed to be right by the ocean. But are they really having canoes right by the ocean? That seems like...
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Open ocean like that doesn't.
They definitely set up the camp a little bit different, but they did show like an amphitheater with some fighting. They showed this archery area.
You see the strawberry fields,
and then you saw the strawberry fields
with
the satyrs. You don't see the big rock wall that has lava falling down or whatever.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
There's something else that you don't see, but it's fine. But
and
they
then
showed
later
a lot.
You see the dining pavilion.
That's right, and it is an open dining pavilion, just like they say in the book. So that's good. So you do get a little like. Oh, but you know what you missed? So now we're in chapter 6 of the book, if you follow along. It's a little bit hard to follow here because they've moved things around, and I'm going to point that out when we get to it. But we're now in chapter 6, and right before he walks out, right before he leaves, he looks up at the attic, and there's like a twitch, like someone was looking through the attic curtains.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's up there? And Mr. Brenner or Chiron says like nothing alive. There's nothing alive in the attic. And you're like, nothing alive.
Yeah, he says it really weird. He says like, first he's like, oh, who lives up there? And Chiron says
nothing alive.
No, yeah, he says there's no living
creatures in that attic.
Or something like super specifically phrased. Yeah. Percy's like, okay.
Yeah, he kind of notes it as kind of weird. But we don't get that, which is just, I mean, all that is like leading us up to the Oracle, which we still get later. But, so, yeah. But I wanted to say, because you brought this up last episode about Grover's age. Yeah. And I didn't think you had it exactly right. So I want to actually read. So this is where Chiron is talking about Grover, and Percy's like, is he going to get in trouble? And he's like, no. Like he's like saying, well, you didn't really succeed. I mean, because what happened with your mom? And then you had to drag him across the line, basically. Right. And he's like, yeah, but he was still, Percy's like basically saying like he was still brave. He still helped and stuff. Yeah. And then Chiron, this is when he says, well, it's up to Dionysus and the Council of Cloven Elders. So this is where you first hear that, right?
Yep.
And then so they're talking about Grover, and a little bit later he says, he's still so small for his age. And then Percy says, how old is he? And Chiron says, 28. And then, so we get an actual age.
Not 24.
And it's not 24. Yeah. And Percy says, what? And he's in 6th grade? And then Chiron says, satyrs? Satyrs mature half as fast as humans, Percy. Grover has been the equivalent of a middle school student for the past 6 years. And then, because you were saying that they were saying something's like not like it's different with Grover. So this is what he says.
Like
he says
just a little bit behind.
At any rate, Grover is a late bloomer, even by Satyr standards, and not yet very accomplished at woodland magic. So there you go. It's just he's taking a little bit more to get to where
longer to grow and grow his magical powers too.
Yeah. We know that actually like really takes off in the next few books. He comes more into himself and stuff.
Yeah, like by the end of the 5, well, I guess it's 4 years.
Is it 4 years, 5 books?
Yeah, because book 3 happens over winter. Usually each book is over a summer camp, except for book 3. But that makes sense because the major prophecy ends with him being 16.
Yeah, which is the last book.
Which would be 4 years later.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So by that time, Grover has really
he's probably
come
more
into
like an 18-year-old instead of a 12-year-old. Like,
yeah.
he becomes a man.
Yeah, he becomes a man.
Even though he's 33 at that point.
Right. Well, I found that when I was reading, and I just wanted to read it to you because we had talked about it, and it wasn't quite what we said, so.
Yeah.
But so we get in the TV series, he walks them up to the cabin, right? Uh-huh. And, on the way, he apologizes about the pen. Yeah.
Okay,
you want to say about that?
Well, I just wanted to say that I don't remember if they mentioned this in the book, but when Chiron explains how that pen could never disappear, like it will always return to your pocket, he says that he could never lose it unless he surrenders it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't remember them mentioning that in the book, and maybe they do, but specifically that, like, if Percy surrendered his sword, like, voluntarily, it wouldn't return to him. Which I guess is how it works.
That's how Chiron gave it, because Chiron gave it to him, right?
Right, which I guess is how that works. Like, it makes sense, because otherwise you could never give someone the pen, like, as a gift.
Right.
But it is interesting.
So, yeah, in the book, we don't get the pen coming back to us until he's going on his quest.
Like, right about
to leave. So
he's
just about to leave. He's, like, down by the bus with Argus, the many-eyed guy, about to take him. And Chiron goes, oh, what am I thinking? I can't let you get away with this. Get away without this. And he pulls the pen from his coat pocket and hands it to Percy. It says, oh, yeah, and see, Percy doesn't recognize it at this point. He goes, gee, thanks. And this is something also that isn't said in the series. He says, Percy, that's a gift from your father. I've kept it for years, not knowing you were who I was waiting for. But the prophecy is clear to me now. You are the one. And then he says, the sword has a long and tragic history that we need not go into. Its name is Anaklusbos, which he translates Triptide right away, because he, of course, understands ancient Greek quite. And then he says... he also says only use it against monsters. It doesn't work against humans.
Yeah.
So it only works
made out of that
Imperial bronze? Is that what
No, Imperial gold is what the Romans use.
Oh, okay. Sorry, wrong book.
Celestial bronze.
That's right. So here it is.
Celestial, anyways, and then Imperial,
like the stars.
Both of them are godly words or high up words. Like, it's not a normal mortal metal. No mortal could ever be like, oh, look at this celestial bronze. Like, it only exists in the
godly world.
Godly world, yeah.
So then he says the sword is celestial bronze, forged by the Cyclopses.
I don't know.
Tempered in the heart of Mount Etna, cooled in the river Leith,
which is the one that makes you lose
I need
your
to learn all
memory.
this pronunciation.
I'm pretty sure it's Leith, but that's the one that makes you lose your memory.
Yeah. And then it says, so like I said, it will pass through mortals like an illusion. It says they're simply not important enough for this blade to kill, which I think is so funny. Like, the blade's like, psh, I'm not going to kill a human.
Another hint that blades have personalities.
Yeah, oh my gosh, so funny. So then he shows them how, it becomes a sword, and then you recap it, touch it to the sword tip, and it instantly becomes a ballpoint pen again. And then he's thinking in his head, oh my gosh, I'm probably going to lose it. I lose pens all the time. And then Chiron says, you can't lose the pen. It is enchanted. It will always reappear in your pocket. Try it. So then he throws it away, and then it reappears in his pocket. Right. I do not think he says anything in here about surrendering it. So they do say that in the TV series, but not in the book. Yeah. But I'm glad they say in the TV series, because it makes sense.
Otherwise, how could you give someone a pen?
How could you give it to him? How could you turn it over to the next person?
Except for with the thought of, kind of like how the wand chooses the wizard. Like, a little bit of, maybe the sword's a little bit sentient, like we just said.
And knows that, okay, I'm going to give this to Annabeth to use for this particular thing, and then it knows that Annabeth's going to use it or something.
Like it might just know when it's traded hands, like the wand, the death stick.
The Elder Wand.
The Elder Wand, yeah. Anyway,
just like the Elder Wand.
It could be like that. But I like that he specifically said, unless you surrender it, just to make it clear for everyone that that's how it works. And
wouldn't it be really cool if the Elder Wand had a little way that you can turn into a pen? And no one would know that you have your Elder Wand? Okay, sorry.
That would be great. Also, in this scene, the first time I watched it when they're walking around, I noticed that the horse actually stumbles a little bit, like over a rock. Just like the normal way that horses do. Not like it was about to fall over. But I was like, oh my god, that has to be a real horse. And you would never have a CGI horse stumble. That just wouldn't happen. And I did learn that the actor was actually, for these scenes, was riding the horse. Like, the normal way, not on his head. However, it made it so like when they stitched it together and stuff, it looked really realistic and cool. And I just thought that was great. I love that the horse stumbled a little bit, because sometimes horses do stumble a little bit.
Yeah, they did a good job doing the merging him with this horse, because when he walks, you can tell he's got the horse walk going on. Even when
but
you're
not
only
too
looking
dramatically.
Not too dramatically, but when you're looking at the top half of him, and even though you don't see the horse, you can tell that he's on a horse.
Yeah, I just remember
he is a horse.
That like the way that they think animals move, like in CGI and stuff. Like if you ever watch someone ride a wolf in anything where you ride wolves, it's a common thing. The way that the wolves move is just, even if they're at full gallop, is way too smooth. You can almost see the machine they must be sitting on that does the rolling motion. Mm-hmm. It's just unrealistically smooth, and every stride is like perfect, and that's just not, that's not how any creature can move.
Right.
Like, you have to, move your gait for the terrain and whatever else.
And you step on a rock, and so then one leg's gonna be a little higher, and this, you don't have to jump over a root or whatever. Yeah.
For me, maybe I just watched too much like animal documentaries, but it's really clear when someone has a fake animal, and I could know, like I could just tell right away that it was a real horse, and I just loved it.
Yeah, that was good. It was very cool of them.
Yeah.
So he has a conversation about the pen. I actually noticed the third time watching it, or fourth time watching it, that there is someone has just come off of a what's it called when you're like attached to a harness and you go flying through the trees?
Zip line,
yeah. Oh, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's cool, because there's no zip line in the books at all. But I just thought that was kind of neat.
Maybe they replaced the climbing wall with a
zip lines. Yeah, like maybe you're like zipping through like forest fires or fake monsters. You have to
fight them.
Fight in the air. Yeah, I don't know. It is. They do give you an idea that it's like very dangerous in this camp. Like, like with like the lava walls, or like, he talks about the armory.
In the woods.
Yeah, the monsters in the woods.
Yeah, I think it's when they're explaining how the boundary works, and they're like, yeah, no monsters can come in like unless we let them. And he's like, why would we want them? It's like, oh, we always keep the woods like well stocked. And he's like, okay.
Yeah, so you get this feeling in the book of like kind of like it's a little dangerous to be at this place, but it has to be. They're learning training. How to survive.
Yeah.
You don't quite get that. The TV series does not spend enough time in the camp.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I mean, I do understand they had to get out in the quest. They couldn't just like stay and play at camp for a while, so you don't really get the feeling so much. But anyways, we're jumping ahead a little bit. So he takes them to the cabin. So now here we have the cabins. Now, the cabins were okay.
Some of them were different enough from each other, but
most of them had columns and they were big. There was like these two that were more cabin-y like and no columns.
Yeah.
But the thing is that in the book, they're so different. Each one is so different. Like Ares has like landmines and barbed wire. And then it's like the
Aphrodite's is like beautiful looking.
Yeah, with like there's pink curtains or whatever it is, and like and then there's like seashells outside of the Poseidon one.
And only that, it smells like low to the ground. It's like lower to the ground, like for hurricanes and stuff. Like
it's set up to be like
squat of a house, and it's like made of like something shells. Yeah, it's like the whole thing is like made out of seashell or whatever. It's just all very ocean themed. And then at one point he gets a beautiful fountain in there where he can make, calls with drachmas and stuff.
Yeah. But they do explain here that except for the fact that each had a large brass number above the door, They looked absolutely nothing alike. He says that. Absolutely nothing alike.
Yeah.
You know, like...
It's the same with the thrones. They do it again with the thrones later.
And I guess if you're going to have to build all that, and, you know, I guess it would be crazy to have to build different ones each time. But I was a little sad because I've imagined... I really wanted to see these cabins, and I really wanted to see how they were different. And they have, like, some kind of what's supposed to be maybe some kind of, like, Greek sign above each one of them. But I was looking up the signs. I couldn't find them. They're not Greek letters.
They don't mean anything.
They're just made up signs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they said that they were just made up.
Okay, whatever.
It's just for the aesthetic.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that works. So, but yeah, so we don't get those great cabins. It does say in the book that it faced a common area about the size of a soccer field that was dotted with Greek statues, fountains, and flower beds, and a couple of basketball hoops. We don't see that either, but we do see the Greek statues when they're walking through. So that will explain the Greek statues, because I didn't remember statues at all. So
yeah, I didn't either, but it was so on theme that I didn't question it.
Yeah, I liked it, actually. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Mr. Brunner brings him to the cabin, and in the book, Annabeth is there. In the TV show, we still do not get Annabeth. I think we kind of get Luke.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, you do get Luke. Luke says, like, Percy's pulling the blue candy out of his bag, being a little bit sad about it.
Yeah.
And then, like, you hear some campers whispering, like, oh, that was a kid, the Minotaur. In the show, by the way. And then they start walking over, and that's when Percy's like, hey, like, I get it. Like, if you want to mess with me or whatever. Like,
he automatically assumes that he's going to be bullied, which is so sad.
It is sad. He's like, now is just not the time. Like, I've had a really rough day or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, his mom died.
Right.
But then Luke is really nice, just like how he is in the book. He's like, hey, it's fine. You know, we've all been through this kind of stuff. Like, we understand.
And that's where you get from him the conversation about, I think it's, oh, no, that's after the dream. Never mind. We'll get to that. Yeah, but you're right. He does kind of like say, hey, we understand, you know, it's rough and stuff.
And like, we always have
sympathy.
a place for you. Yeah. Like, this is, you know, this is the place for you.
Right. Yeah. So in the TV series scene, that's where it ends, basically, where he has that just very short, brief conversation with Luke. And Luke's got some friends there. But in the book, this is where you get a whole load. Annabeth takes over the tour, and you get from her, she talks about being unclaimed and how, like, some people, you know, don't get claimed for a while.
Yeah.
And you get, like, you find out that monsters don't actually die.
Yep.
And he's like, what the heck?
Yep.
And like they go away for a while, and then it could be, if you're lucky, your whole lifetime, but they do come back. And that's where you find that out, which is interesting because they don't actually explain that. I didn't think about it. In the TV series, you don't get any explanation how suddenly Mrs. Dodds Electo is back after them, after he killed her. Like, there's no, like...
Maybe you do in the bus scene with Annabeth.
Oh, I guess when we get to that, we'll see if it's said or not. I don't recall it being said,
it just seems weird that they would really, like, show him killing her, and then she's just back, and then she's back again at the end.
Well, we'll have to see.
Annabeth kills...
When we watch that part again, we'll pay attention.
No, then they kill her again with the Medusa head, and then she's back again by the end.
Yeah, I know. To take the helm.
Yeah, so it has to be... I feel like they should have said something. I think they might say it in the bus.
Okay, we'll pay attention when we get to that.
Yeah.
And this is also in the book, the first conversation where she's saying that, yeah, you have a godly parent. So that all happens now, where in the TV series, that doesn't happen at all. So there's no Annabeth at this point. So I did not like that when I watched it the first time.
There wasn't enough Annabeth at the beginning?
We get lots of him and Luke. And in the beginning, I didn't like that. I was like, this is how we build him and Annabeth.
Yeah.
As a, you know, as a something, whatever they are, you know. But then I realized later they want you to get more of Luke because they want you to feel that twist.
If you're only going to be that's how I felt right away. I was like, we're going to spend the whole quest with Annabeth. But if we're only going to be at camp for one episode, which would make the most sense, like timeline-wise, of 8 episodes, we need to understand why Percy thinks of Luke as a friend, how the betrayal is so sharp at the end, and why he ends up hating his guts for the rest of the... I mean, because here's the thing, if we're not going to do that thing where okay, he hates Luke because Annabeth has feelings for Luke. And even though Luke's bad, Annabeth keeps on defending him over and over again because she's had a crush on him all these years, which is what we get in the books. That's partially stems that hatred for Luke. Besides the fact that he's an awful person, like murdering and stuff, it's also like, to make it worse, Annabeth still likes him, even though he's murdering. But if we just get like really like, oh wow, we love Luke so much, he's so nice, he's there for Percy. When Percy, talks to his mom, well, not really, but he's like, I have real friends, like they're real friends, and you're just like, oh god, Percy.
Yeah.
So you really have to get that, and then that'll probably make his hate later even stronger.
Yeah, and we don't know what's going to happen. Like, it does seem like they're not going the route of Annabeth having a crush on Luke. It really doesn't look like that.
Which is probably for the best.
Fine, I guess.
When you see them on screen together, you're like, wow, that age gap. Like, it's just one of those things that just seems so weird.
Young girls have crushes on older teenage boys all the time. I don't think it's that weird, but...
Totally. But it's still weird.
Yeah, that's okay. Fine.
I feel like if I felt that energy on screen, I would have been like, oh, God.
Maybe it's harder to see than it is to read.
Yeah.
So, and we've obviously heard other people talk about this, that there's a lot of thoughts on this in the internet, in the podcasts we listen to and stuff. I'm fine with it if they don't want to.
But she could still defend Luke down the line and still be on the side, just as a friend. I mean, if you see how fast Percy likes him, I'm sure Annabeth, who's known him forever and he's saved her life 1,000 times and has always been there for her, will have even stronger feelings.
We'll see where that goes, because...
But by the end of the season, yeah.
We'll see how... Because they changed things with how they ended this book. So we'll see how that... Where it goes into the second story. That's going to basically bring us into this scene where Grover goes to the council, which is not in the book at all whatsoever. I just want to say that, like, throughout this whole period where he's at camp, it kind of bounces around the book a little bit. Like, there's like a scene here from chapter 9, and then it goes back to chapter 7, and then like, because there's several chapters in the book where he's at camp. There's days and days that go by. Yeah. He doesn't just get thrown right into a quest.
Yep.
So they had to take the important things and put it together, which is fine.
Yeah.
I will just say that I don't think Grover going to the Council of Cloven Elders was important enough. We could have gotten other things in that few minutes, but...
I guess so, but we also don't hear as much about Grover's hopes and dreams and how his life goes in this season. And to set up season 2, I think it is important.
Yeah, because we only get at the very end of this season where he says, hey, I got my searcher's license.
And he talks about it once
before
or twice.
That.
Like, you hear about it a bit at the casino, when he finds that other satyr.
But my point being then, that 3 minutes where he goes and sees this tree nymph lady.
That was random.
And then goes to the council. He could have been saying, like, I really want to do this. I really want to find Pan. Like, they could have used that time to give us more
explain what nectar
data.
ambrosia is.
Yeah. They could have given us something with that time. Yeah. Instead, you get this really cool costume of this tree nymph, which is, oh my God, must have taken hours for them to put on her. Was amazing how she came out of the tree. That was very impressive. And then you do get the glimpse of him about to talk to the council, but that's
at least they didn't do an entire, conversation with them in that entire thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just feel like it's good for setup later, especially if we're getting other people's point of views.
Well, I think they could have used that time more wisely in a different matter.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say. I feel like there's other things lost. You didn't have to do that. I didn't get anything out of it except for that he's picking his horns because he's too rough on himself, which is what she says.
Yeah, and
that's the only thing I get from that. Yeah, is that his mom? It's hard to, I mean, the fact that she's like treating him kind of like that, you get the idea. And I do believe there is something about in the Greek history, Greek myth, whatever, that a satyrs a tree nymph can have a satyr, like she can have a, and we kind of get that in a book which we won't go into as a spoiler, but
there's a different satyr who falls in love with an air nymph,
and then they have
satyr babies. So I think that's totally makes sense.
So she could be his mom.
Yep.
But I'm just here to put in a formal complaint that we had that scene when we could have had something else. I mean, we could have.
But maybe that mom comes back real hard later, you know?
No. It's not, please. That's great. He has a mom. Great. There's so many other things we need to get into. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, so what I want to close this out with before we end is I want to know, and I know, again, I'm throwing this out without giving you any time to think about it, but if you were to have, to taste ambrosia and nectar, do you know what they would taste like for you?
I feel like the ambrosia would taste like yogurt with cinnamon and raisins, but not store-bought yogurt, specifically the homemade yogurt that my grandma used to make.
Yes.
Still makes, but I just don't eat it as much anymore. That was super comfort food. Mm-hmm. And a drink, well, it's funny because his drink tastes like a food. So it doesn't have to taste like a drink. No, it doesn't have to taste like a drink. However, I'm going to go for a drink anyways.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, I don't know, like a really cold and fresh banana smoothie.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Definitely. Okay, so mine, coming from my mom, who's also your grandma, so she's obviously giving us the comfort food, believe it or not, would be the perfectly cooked artichokes dipped in butter. Because that used to be like, we used to cuddle up on the couch and it was like a special treat. And then that would be my ambrosia. And my nectar would be vanilla Haagen-Dazs ice cream, because that was also the special occasion comfort food as a child. So
yep.
There you go.
That makes sense.
Well, that wraps us up.
Yep. Okay, good. So we have an Instagram at Camp Comparisons. We post, cute things. You get updates on when our episodes are coming out. So go follow that. And if you want to talk to us about your favorite part of this episode or what your ambrosia nectar taste would be, then email us at campcomparisons@gmail.com.
Yeah, we definitely, if you're following along on this and you want to give us some thoughts and feelings, we do want to hear them. We may even mention them on the podcast, so feel free to reach out to us. And also, if you could be so kind and tell your other Percy Jackson friends about us and have them also listen, that'd be great. We're a new podcast and we're, trying to get out there and trying to get the other Percy Jackson fans to know we're here, and that's best done with word of mouth.
Yeah, and we're posting more regularly, so yeah. Tell your friends, your family, your neighbors.
Yeah.
Go door to door.
Yeah, and I'm getting my brother to read the books right now so he can listen to our podcast. Or actually, I should say he's decided to read the books to listen to the podcast. So you can also get your friends and family to do the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time.
See you at camp.
Bye.
Bye.